Picture books take the random impressions of the real world and give them form and meaning. They are the building blocks for the child's future learning processes, but only if they are relevant and accessible. For most South African children, few such books exist. Without them, young children are severely disadvantaged. The Little Library Project responded to the challenge to create simple picture books to be both fun and functional.
The baby's got hiccups.
Read tapped the minds and imaginations of the people of this country. In residential workshops around South Africa, talented individuals were brought together in creative teams.
We put the writer and the illustrator and the user all together, and we've got them to marry their sense of what a child's book actually is. And they were told to make a story in 2 days, and that's exactly what they did. They came up with illustrated stories in 2 days. Puts an enormous pressure on them. Many of our workshoppers had never encountered people from other groups before, and we cut across every single barrier that existed in South Africa. It was race, language, culture, religion, age, color, you name it. We put in all these different people into the workshop, and it was like a microcosm of that particular community.
The stories that evolved have a third world feel, but are not representative of any one culture. They are clearly of Africa, but not always outwardly African.
I think for a child to associate with the story or to be drawn into the story, a local reference is very important, because if we have international books, they don't identify strongly with the main character, and the issues dealt with in European books are not the issues that are part of our country.
There is a naturalness in the stories, a spontaneity, a positive warmth and witty humor, despite the bleak realities in which some of them are rooted. The stories are wholly South African. We had succeeded in creating a fusion of cultures. They offer a chance to sing, dance, play, and celebrate life.
Once we had the stories in front of us, we landed up with 70 stories from the workshop. We then started the process of sifting. Some of them were too long, too boring, too difficult. Structures were too peculiar, simply not there. But the way in which we tested them was with children, always. Our sounding board was always children.
In editorial workshops, we pulled the best stories apart and put them together again. We still had 23 stories, and we could only publish 10. Which were the best? We decided the users would be the choosers.
So we decided once again to go back to the community and ask them to vote for the stories that they liked best. And we sent this exhibition around South Africa, where in fact we had these incredible storytellers as well, telling the stories in whatever language the audience was in. We had the most marvelous puppets to go with it. It was a story fest. It was a magical time.
At last, we ended up with 10 books. Now, how could they be used in the classroom?
We invited the users to come in and say, great, we've got wonderful picture books here. None of them had been designed as didactic tools. They'd all been designed as real books that children would enjoy, and that's how they've been designed and that's how they've been chosen. Now we were saying to educators, here we got these books, what can you do with them in the classroom? Some of the issues that the books raised, in fact, made the educators sometimes feel very uncomfortable. They were not part of what we would call the politically correct environment. There were elements in there that they felt very uncomfortable with.
You waited for them, but they didn't come. There'd been trouble with the taxis. What does that mean?
But in South Africa, we all know what a portentous, what a significant comment that is. And it opens up the possibility of discussing with children the traumas that many of them had witnessed. And that's when we realized that we were onto something much richer than simply a reading program or a book program. What we were really becoming involved with over here was an integrated language program, which was going to shift not only the children's perceptions of what a book was, but also the teachers.
And perhaps they may heal us. everyone closes their eyes.
Every book has a message which is embedded in the subtext. The books touch on issues vital to young children: parent-child relationships, peer group relationships, the need for personal recognition, as well as a full range of emotions. Because illustrations were such an important aspect, we had to ensure they were clearly understood and appropriate.
The picture of the cat's mouth, although it's absolutely a marvelous visual image of the throat looking down through the fangs, they were very adamant that it's too scary.
Which one was
too
that?
Scary. Much
Yes,
too scary for the little kids. None of them liked it. None of the groups liked it. I think it's absolutely stunning. It's stunning, but they say that the little ones can see themselves being swallowed down.
Yeah, because that's exactly what one wants them to feel.
Yes. A child will always say that he's scared, and that scares him. But I mean,
they enjoy that.
yes, but they actually want it.
But we're going to land ourselves in a lot of contention with that one, but I'm prepared to test it.
But what about the children? I mean,
Well,
do the children not override the facilitators?
They do.
Children actually want to be scared. And I think we have to remember that when we're producing books for South African children. They actually need that element of fear. And children are dealing with fear all the time when you think of the environment that they grow up in. But the important point about a book is they are reading about fearful things, and they're things that scare them. But at the end, when they close that book, they're still safe.
Our next step was translation. We not only had the challenge of translating the text correctly, but we had to recreate the spirit and rhythm of the stories in all 8 languages. Each language's individual rhythm had to be matched to the stories.
And this got us into dealing with issues of language. How pure, for example, to keep the language. And we took a very strong line on that because we believe that all language borrows from all other languages in order to remain vibrant and dynamic. So the principle of borrowing from one language into another was deliberately built into this project.
When you render, it's no problem. Because when they hear kumvu, they know it's into the water. It's splashed into the water. Kumvu.
The way in which we've done it is in terms of sound effects rather than in terms of semantic contexts or structures. But it was a very deliberate act, in fact, of making children aware of other languages and how they operate in their own environment. It's also great fun because we believe that playing with language is the way in which children acquire language. And they need to play not only in their language, but they need to play in other languages too. Because it's through play that children are going to become truly multilingual. All the stories can be told in the mother tongue. And what is a wonderful experience in the tapes, for example, that accompany the stories, is that while the stories are told in English, all the songs and children's games that come out of it are done in different languages. And if the teacher doesn't know that language, it doesn't matter. The teacher doesn't have to know everything. The teacher is simply a facilitator. There will be children in the classroom who can teach other children what those languages are.
One of the little children seemed a bit embarrassed to hear the song in his language, but one child started singing along. It's not just your language or my language, it's everyone's if we all make the effort.
It's an attitude to language. It's an attitude of acceptance and tolerance. And that is terribly important to build in as a subtext into everything that we're doing in South African classrooms.
Gave baby to me, says Papa.
All these stories are done on tape by experienced and talented and gifted storytellers, professionals. But they're done in a variety of accents. It's not simply an English standard British accent that actually does the stories. The storytellers are drawn from a wide variety of cultures too, which once again affects the attitude towards multilingualism.
Baby has a kick-ups, what shall we do? Baby has a kick-ups, what shall
Music and dance are a vital part of this whole project. And the music has been handled by Pedro Espi Sanchez, who's a gifted musician. and has created background music and musical effects for each one of the stories.
Well, there are very few stories who emphasize or reinforce African heritage or culture. In this case, we try to make a mixture of all the various cultures and influences that we have in South Africa. I'm using these instruments that you see, and that's something that the children, black children particularly, can relate to. But it's something that's very new to the white children too. And well, there were two parts to the music. One part which I was asked to compose in English lyrics, and another part which happened with the tellers and the translators in a sort of a workshop situation where people got together and created songs and games that go with the stories at the end of each story.
One of the key aspects of the project are the teacher's notes that exist at the back of each poster. What we've designed there is teaching ideas that will indicate to the teachers how the stories can develop each one of the language skills: speaking, listening, writing, reading, using drama, using the music. And one of the great strengths of this project is the fact that we provide training to go with the books and the posters and the translation cards and the tapes. We recognize that many of the teachers who will be using the material have very limited training indeed. But on the other hand, many of the teachers are very sophisticated and highly trained teachers. We've made allowance for all levels of skill. We have got a unique product, something that is wonderful for children, marvelously fun and stimulating, visually rich, and for the teacher, something that is the most essential teaching tool that they can ever find in a classroom.
We need to prepare today's teachers for tomorrow's multilingual, multicultural classrooms. These books are the building blocks of the future.